Cool. Yeah. So this, I guess, chapter is gonna be a little bit more discussion based because it's a topic that people discuss and it's something that a lot of people care about. But yeah, so it's gonna be pretty quick. So maybe like 10 or so minutes. So yeah, mining the environment. So what exactly is the major issue here? So how does crypto affect the environment? So first of all, crypto by itself doesn't really have any effects because it's virtual, it doesn't really have anything physical like effects on the environment. But the main issue behind it is mining, right? I think that's what a lot of people know about, and that a lot of like blockchains in the entire DeFi ecosystem is changing to a different method because of this effect on the environment. So, crypto mining takes up extreme amounts of energy due to highly intensive computation performed by validators while mining. So, I think we discussed this, I think, a couple weeks ago. So, Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies rely on a proof of work mechanism, which involves computations to mine Bitcoin. So, basically, you're brew guessing a nonce with billions of guesses, or even trillions, quintillions of guesses per second. So the whole idea is that you're trying to show that you put a lot of work in order to prove that your transaction was valid. But the issue is that it has a crazy high energy consumption. So the energy used by many cryptocurrencies is sometimes unfathomable, with like Bitcoin and Ethereum using up more energy than entire countries. For example, we see Bitcoin out there using more energy than Norway, Bangladesh, Switzerland, even Google as a company, a bunch of other companies. They have like data centers all over the world. So the argument is that much of the energy used to mine Bitcoin is being sourced from the burning of fossil fuels, the leading cause of global warming. So there is a major issue on how people source the energy in order to get the energy to um, mine cryptocurrencies. Is because at the end of the day, when you're mining cryptocurrencies and mining Bitcoin, a lot of the motive behind it is profit. So when you have the incentive to have cheaper like sources of energy, that way is fossil fuels. So it does lead to a rather ish like a rather negative and harmful cause. So I think most of the fossil fuels being burnt was actually in China, and then they banned cryptocurrencies and mining, so that went down significantly. So I guess that is a movement away from fossil fuels. So the argument is that many people argue that mining is a useless use of energy and that energy should be used for something else. Because in the end, there's no real value of something produced as a result of mining, meaning that when you mine, you're not really generating like value in any way. You are proving transactions, but could that energy be used to do something better or do something that is a little bit more productive, will help change, like impact lives a little bit more. So that's like what people like many people argue, and that the increase of power consumed is also rising even more and more as Bitcoin's becoming more popular. There's more transactions going out. The entire market space is like growing. So that's kind of like the main argument behind that. So why does crypto require so much energy? So I think that the energy intensive aspect of crypto is it's like the idea of it is good and it does help the blockchain, so it's intentional. But if it wasn't so energy intensive, meaning that it would be like there'd be less mining power, less electricity involved, then singular entities could theoretically take control of the chain. Meaning, let's say a company with a lot of data centers, when proof of work isn't that difficult, they just use all their energy and basically take over the entire network, and that pretty much leads to a whole collapse. So large amounts of energy keep bad actors out of like the issue due to the high and extremely high costs of mining. So pretty much the cost of mining is like a negative externality. It first of all there's cost on the person because they have to pay, but then there's also spillover effect on other parts of the economy. So, how are these problems being solved? So many cryptocurrencies are now moving to proof of stake, which does not involve mining. But so cutting mining from the process of validating transactions will greatly decrease the amount of energy expended to run cryptocurrencies. So the idea behind that is, um, you instead of using like proof of work to prove, you actually use proof of stake. So when you stake something, I think we discussed this earlier, you put your trust into that blockchain, and therefore you prove consensus. So Ethereum plans to implement proof of stake in the coming merge, which will take some time this year. Since you know how Ethereum 2.0 is running alongside Ethereum 1.0. So however, Bitcoin or Moon will remain proof of work with a very small chance of ever switching, as far as I know, unless you hard fork the entire chain, because I think Bitcoin is like, I guess, grandfather of all cryptocurrencies. They were the first to do it, and they're probably not going to change. So, but that still presents a major issue because of how much transactions still go through. So, some statistics. So Bitcoin mining takes up nearly 3 times the energy than gold mining, meaning that like virtual mining is more expensive than mining with actual like power tools, that type of stuff for actual gold. So in the US, Bitcoin mining generates an estimated 40 billion pounds of carbon emissions, which in other countries may be even higher, but the US still has the most of crypto miners. However, the cryptocurrency industry is looking to reduce 100% of its carbon emissions by 2030. So that's because that's like switching a lot of these miners to green energy, because green energy is getting subsidized in a lot of countries, and it may one day prove to be cheaper than fossil fuels. So this is kind of the review, kind of the discussion. So the question is crypto inherently good for the environment? And the answers are yes, no, depends, I don't know. So all of these are correct. So I'll just discuss my opinions on each of these. So if you say yes, so the argument is that it's inherently good for the environment because as a whole, the crypto and financial ecosystem, the DeFi financial ecosystem, is significantly cheaper and less energy like consumption than the current financial system. Meaning, all the ATMs around the world, all those banks, they consume a lot of energy, but crypto as a decentralized network consumes less, and that's valid. But the other argument someone would place against that would be that, oh, but that's not the case. Crypto isn't replacing. So at the current point, we're still seeing like a spillover, and it's stacking on top of the current cost of the financial system. So it's running parallel with the current financial system. So that argument is like, if there's like strong supporters of DeFi who believe that crypto will one day, take over the financial system, and you know what? I think that's true, but the timeline for that, I'm not sure. So the other argument is crypto inherently good for the environment. For no, it would be, I think, what we just stated in this presentation, like just to kind of shine a little bit of light on how these issues actually are presenting themselves. So a lot of people think that, oh, crypto, NFTs, all of this is kind of a cash grab. So but at the end of the day, is the energy consumption worth it? And I think that's up to each individual person to decide for themselves. So depends. I think is all like, oh, um, is there any way, right? For example, proof of stake, it's becoming more inherently good for the environment. So yeah, sometimes it may be good, but at other times, some are still using proof of work, still using a lot of high energy consumption. But yeah, I don't know. That could be, in a couple years where a lot of mining, even on Bitcoin, is performed with green energy. That would be good for the environment. But the energy consumption and the moral issue behind whether or not crypto is good and whether or not energy should be spent on that, that's a complete another like discussion. So yeah, I think that's just, thanks for listening to some of my thoughts on this. So feel free to contact us for any feedback. info@drawflake.org, follow us on Instagram, and join our Discord if you like to. So yeah, I think this is where we kind of open up to the people here who want to ask questions or show their views on this topic. Do you agree? What are your views out of these 4 options? Yes, no, depends, I don't know, or you have a different answer. Yeah, so shout it out, whatever you guys think.
I'm definitely in the depends category. those. And one thing you didn't mention is we still, even though our link to gold anymore, we still rely heavily on gold reserves, and gold mining is so incredibly destructive using mercury and acids and open mining pits and runoff. And so there's a lot of destructive ways we create fiat currency and the backing of fiat currency that on top of the ATM machines and energy. So, like yourself, I look forward to the day where everything's digital.
Yeah, it's like the day that the energy consumption isn't an issue will be a pretty historic day because that's the day when like you realize, oh, yeah, this is the real takeover. So yeah, I think in the end, there's a lot of like debates between like technically if there's a benefit or harm, but the moral issue, I think that's a little bit more whether or not you really believe it. Anyone else? No. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so this was a pretty quick event. Shout out to everyone who was able to come out. Yeah, if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to send us an email if you like what we're doing, show us some support. Yeah. So have a great day, guys. If you guys still have any last minute questions, feel free to ask now. I'll be staying on for I think 1 or 2 more minutes.